What could possibly make Josuk throw a punch straight through his own mother? The sun had barely risen when Angelo showed up at Josuk's house disguised as a milkman. Josuk's mom, Tomoko, the keen observer, noticed that the milk cap had been opened, requested a replacement. Angelo hid his double in the milk. The plan to infiltrate the Josuk family's house failed. His anger toward Tomoko exploded. He decided she had to be taken out first. This time, he had his stand enter Josuk's home water supply system through the drain pipe. Meanwhile, Josuk was on the phone with Jotaro, telling him he had seen Angelo's stand the day before. Before the call even ended, Josuk spotted the stand crawling straight into his mom's mouth. Even in a crisis, Josuk stayed unbelievably calm. He grabbed an empty water bottle and dumped out the liquid inside. Then he stepped behind his mom and got ready to strike. Hey, Josuk, what do you want? This guy is insane. He even dares to harm his own mother. But this idea is absolutely ingenious. It's clear that Josuk has pushed Crazy Diamond's abilities to their limits. The fight ended in a split second. Josuk immediately updated Jotaro, saying he had captured Angelo's stand. Jotaro quietly praised Josuk on the other end of the call. He told Josuk to keep an eye on it. Jotaro immediately rushed to Josuk's house, and Josuk's way of guarding this dangerous stand was literally setting it on the table and playing video games right next to it. A stand this dangerous, and he left it sitting out like a toy? Tomoko went to work. Josuk's maternal grandfather, a policeman, happened to be returning from patrol. Angelo knew him well when Angelo was 12. This man was the officer who led the team that arrested him. Josuk's grandpa always acted like a carefree old prankster, but whenever the TV reported a murder in town, his face instantly turned cold and serious. Right when Jotaro's car pulled up, Josuk ran outside to greet him without thinking twice. Those few seconds were all Angelo needed. He knew exactly which habits those officers had back then, so he transformed his stand into a bottle of liquor. Josuk was talking to Jotaro when he suddenly heard a heavy thud from inside the house. He turned around and saw the bottle on the table opened, and his grandfather lying on the floor. His face was covered in blood. Angelo's double stood aside, smugly mocking the dead old man. Josuk summoned Crazy Diamond on the spot, but Angelo's stand was liquid. Physical attacks couldn't touch it at all. Angelo slipped toward the window, threw one last insult at Josuk, and vanished through the narrow gap. Josuk bolted to his grandfather's side. He told the incoming Jotaro, "It's okay. Crazy Diamond can fix anything." Maybe he meant it for Jotaro, or maybe he was just trying to convince himself. He focused all of Crazy Diamond's power. The gruesome wounds sealed up instantly, but his grandfather never opened his eyes. Josuk, fighting back tears, kept calling out to his maternal grandfather, but Grandpa never woke up smiling like he used to. Jotaro told him that Crazy Diamond is the most compassionate stand in the world. It can heal injuries, repair anything broken, but it cannot bring back a life that has already ended. No stand has ever revived the dead. You fart. Where is your platinum star pacemaker? Damn it, Araki, why would you erase a skill this important? Josuk slowly lowered his grandfather's body. This playful old man always stood like a true protector whenever a case appeared. After guarding this town for 35 years, he can finally rest. But now, a dangerous killer was hiding in the town. Someone who murdered simply because he enjoyed it. Someone who wanted every person here dead. Josuk made up his mind in that moment. He would take his grandfather's place, protect everything in the town that needs protection. The funeral was simple and quiet. Josuk's house complete lockdown has been implemented. Tomoko temporarily moved to a relative's house, and Josuk and Jotaro prepared for Angelo's next attack. Angelo would eventually merge with the stone forever. Josuk and Jotaro were fully prepared for an all-out fight. They only drank unopened bottled water to eliminate any risk. Josuk was doing everything he could to suppress his anger, but half the furniture in the house was already smashed to pieces. He silently swore to himself that the next time he saw Angelo, he'd make him suffer 100 times more than those broken chairs. Meanwhile, Angelo was watching from the shadows, waiting for a chance to flip the entire battle. After a stalemate lasted for 3 full days, it suddenly started raining. And yes, this was exactly what Angelo had been waiting for. Jotaro, who was scouting outside, was suddenly ambushed, but with Stark Lightning's overwhelming power, Angelo's stand couldn't land a single scratch on him. Still, the stand slipped into the house along with the rainwater, and Jotaro quickly regrouped with Josuk inside. Both of them immediately went on high alert. They noticed that the stove was boiling over with water, and every faucet in the house had been turned on. Thick steam filled the entire room, completely blocking their vision. Angelo's stand could hide anywhere in that steam and strike without warning. Even with 2 heavyweight stand users teaming up, it was nearly impossible to counterattack effectively. But if they retreated outside, that would only put them deeper into Angelo's territory. With the house choked full of steam, even the unbeatable Jotaro found himself troubled. Just then, Josuk suddenly started laughing. He had never imagined the enemy was actually that close. Josuk had already come up with the perfect way to capture Angelo. He summoned Crazy Diamond and punched straight through the wall. Thanks to Crazy Diamond's restoring ability, they could slip into the steam-free living room first, then rebuild the wall behind them, and trap Angelo inside. But would it really go that smoothly? The sly Angelo had already predicted Josuk's plan. He hid himself inside the humidifier beforehand, turning the living room into a deadly trap. Jotaro reacted instantly, and kicked the humidifier over. But Angelo's stand had already slipped into Josuk's body, just as Angelo thought he'd won. Josuk reached for his own throat. He summoned Crazy Diamond, and pulled out a fully restored rubber glove from his mouth. Who knew he could pull off something like that? It turned out that Jacek had cut the glove into pieces beforehand, and then swallowed it. Once Angelo's stand entered his body, he used Crazy Diamond to reassemble the glove. Jacek was a genius. He summoned the Mad Diamond once again, and made Angelo feel what it was like to defy gravity. Angelo can't run away now. He collapsed to the ground, dragging himself forward. He cleverly chose his grave. This shameless bastard even tried to threaten Jacek and Jotaro, with talk of law and morality. Funny how he never thought about the law, back when he committed his crimes. Crazy Diamond had one more brutal use. It could forcibly fuse a scumbag with an object, and make sure he could never break free. Jacek coldly told Angelo that he wasn't going to execute him. He wouldn't, and neither would Jotaro. No, perhaps Jotaro next to you would. For a scum like Angelo with no bottom line, dying quickly would actually be the merciful way out. Being trapped and stoned forever to repent was the punishment he truly deserved. Crazy Diamond unleashed a barrage of blows. When it ended, Angelo had completely fused with the rock, becoming Angelo Rock. And even then, that wasn't its final form. Later on, it became one of Morio's famous landmarks, a common meeting spot for locals. After turning into that rock, Angelo finally revealed where his stand had come from. A year earlier, while he was still in prison, a mysterious man with a bow and arrow found him. Wait, why did that guy's hairstyle look so familiar? Before Angelo could ask, the man shot the arrow straight into his mouth. But Angelo didn't die instead. He awakened a special power. The man told him it was what Dio called a stand. Hearing Dio's name, Jotaro froze, and his expression immediately turned grim. But Angelo had clearly lost the will to live. He used his stand to grab a boy passing by, threatening Jacek to restore his body. Jacek answered with a cold glare. You think trash like you gets to negotiate with me? Let me fix my hair first, then you're really gonna pay. Angelo could have survived a bit longer. But after hearing that, Jacek ignored Jotaro's warning. He summoned his stand, and completed Angelo Rock once and for all, making escape impossible. Jotaro had tried to stop him, because Angelo had mentioned Dio, the vampire with a century-long blood feud with the Joestar family. Could one of his living servants have come to town? After taking care of Angelo, Jotaro immediately headed back to the hotel. He contacted the Speedwagon Foundation right away to report the latest developments. Jotaro specifically asked for the photos the Speedwagon Foundation had taken in Egypt 10 years earlier. In the photo, Anya the hag was clearly holding a bow and arrow. This meant the danger in Morio was far greater than just Angelo alone. After investigating the town's history thoroughly, Jotaro went straight to Jacek Higashikata's house. As soon as Tomoko Higashikata saw him, she mistakenly thought he was her husband Joseph. It was obvious her love for Joseph had never faded. Jotaro briefly explained he was Joseph's grandson. Tomoko stared at his face, lost in thought. Since Jacek hadn't come home yet, Jotaro planned to leave first. Before leaving, he comforted Tomoko, telling her to accept her loss and move on. He also told her that if Joseph were there, he would do everything in his power to protect her. But Joseph was getting on in years, making long trips really inconvenient for him. Jotaro promised he would guard Tomoko's safety in his grandfather's place. Based on the available information, that bow and arrow possessed the terrifying power to grant stand abilities to others. Someone was secretly creating a large number of stand users in Morio. They absolutely couldn't let someone more evil than Dio gain control of such immense power. They had to find and destroy this dangerous bow and arrow as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Koichi Hirose was also deeply worried about the town's safety. After checking the town's white paper, he was shocked to discover that 81 people had gone missing under mysterious circumstances. 45 of them were young girls, a number 8 times higher than that of similar-sized towns. At the same time, he felt profound sorrow over the passing of Jacek's grandfather. After school, Jacek took the initiative to invite Koichi to walk home together. Koichi was sincerely relieved to see Jacek pulling himself together. When the two passed Angelo Rock, they even stopped to say hello. On their way, they passed an abandoned house with a no trespassing sign posted on it. Koichi keenly noticed that, inside this house, which had been closed up for 3 or 4 years, a dark figure had appeared by the window just a moment earlier. But Jacek said their house was not far away, and he had never heard of any new residents moving in here. The police also patrolled the area regularly to keep homeless people away. However, curiosity got the better of Koichi, and he couldn't help but peek into the house. In the next second, a boy named Okuyasu Nijimura suddenly kicked the door open, grabbing Koichi by the throat. Okuyasu shouted angrily that his father had bought this house, warning Koichi not to break in without permission. Jacek stepped forward immediately to intervene, demanding that Okuyasu let Koichi go. Unexpectedly, an arrow suddenly shot down from the roof, piercing straight through Koichi's throat. The one who attacked was Okuyasu's older brother, Keicho Nijimura, the very person secretly creating stand users in the town. He had witnessed Jacek defeat Angelo, and he believed Jacek would become an obstacle to his plans. Shooting Koichi was a test to see if he could awaken his stand ability. From the current situation, it was clear Koichi hadn't succeeded. Okuyasu immediately summoned his stand, Bombard Space, to stop Jacek from rescuing Koichi. Jacek also quickly unleashed Crazy Diamond to fight back, but the bombing space with a speed rating of B was no match for Crazy Diamond's speed rating of A, and was was severely injured with a single punch. Seeing his younger brother defeated, Shapesign flew into a rage and shouted at him. His stunt double is clearly very powerful, but he used it like a fool. He ordered Okuyasu to master his stand properly and kill Josuke once and for all. Taking advantage of the argument between the two, Josuke walked towards Koichi. He punched Okuyasu away and immediately checked Koichi's injuries. Enraged, Itai activated the core capability of bombarding space, eliminating space. Josuke instantly sensed the fatal danger. He gripped the right hand of bombing space tightly with both hands. After being punched by Okuyasu, Josuke quickly retreated. When Josuke came to his senses, he noticed that a word was missing from the door that the right hand had slashed across in the bomb space. Josuke immediately figured out that the opponent's stand ability was erasing space. Okuyasu readily admitted this and added more details. He told Josuke that the right hand of bombardment space could completely eliminate anything it touched. The cut surfaces of the erased objects would automatically merge back together, restoring their original form. As for where the erased parts went, Okuyasu himself had no idea. This ability could even cut through spatial distance, forcing the target to appear right in front of him. With this bizarre ability, Okuyasu landed several punches on Josuke in a row, but Josuke soon found a way to counter it. When he was pulled by the spatial suction again, 3 potted plants next to him were sucked in as well. Okuyasu didn't have time to react and was hit repeatedly by the 3 potted plants, temporarily passing out. To be safe, Josuke wanted to pinch Okuyasu to keep him unconscious longer, but just as he was about to act, he saw Koichi being dragged deeper into the house. So Josuke immediately let Okuyasu go and chased after them without hesitation. Josuke is doing everything he can to heal Okuyasu, whose face is covered in bullet holes. Seeing Koichi being forcibly dragged into the house, Josuke immediately gave chase at full speed. Keicho is finally ready to make his move. His top priority now is to retrieve the only remaining arrow. This arrow is crucial to achieving his goals. He can't afford to lose it. Josuke shouts at Keicho to stop on the spot. Pulling the arrow out now would surely cost Koichi his life from excessive blood loss. But Keicho doesn't budge. He says straight out that he's always been a stickler for rules. Someone who finishes what he starts, like how you take a CD out and put it away after listening to it. Before he finished speaking, he had already pulled out the arrow, and Josuke immediately rushed over. Keicho had actually set an ambush nearby, but he never expected the newly awakened Okuyasu to suddenly call out to his brother, saying they hadn't settled their score yet and couldn't fight. Josuke hears this and quickly dodges the ambush, but as Okuyasu rushes over, countless small holes are shot into his face. Keicho's stand is extremely evil squadron, and it's hiding in the darkness right now. He feels no sympathy for his injured, foolish brother. He's told Okuyasu since childhood that one must learn to grow to be worthy of living. Extremely evil squadron to spray gunfire wildly, and Keicho doesn't care at all if he accidentally hits his brother. Josuke was injured while protecting Okuyasu. Keicho is certain Josuke will come back to save Koichi, so he drags Koichi upstairs and sets another ambush. Don't worry, Koichi has an incredibly tough streak. Downstairs, Okuyasu refuses to reveal any information about Keicho's stand, but Josuke still managed to heal his injuries. Josuke only asks that Okuyasu stop getting in his way, because Koichi doesn't have much time left. This selfless act would definitely bring Jonathan to tears. Okuyasu is completely confused. He doesn't understand why Josuke would risk getting hurt to save him, especially since he might still attack Josuke later. He's also curious why Josuke isn't healing the wound on his own hand. Okuyasu knows he's not the brightest, so he asks Josuke to spell it out for him. Josuke doesn't feel like explaining to Okuyasu. He then carefully runs up to the second floor. Okuyasu follows closely behind, pressing him to answer why he won't heal himself. Josuke finally admits that his stand Crazy Diamond can't heal his own injuries. More importantly, once someone dies, they can't come back. That's why he has to save Koichi right away. He also warns Okuyasu, if Koichi dies, he has no idea what he'll do to Keicho, and Okuyasu shouldn't blame him then. After saying that, Josuke finds Koichi in a room on the second floor. Even though he knows it's a trap, he has no choice but to charge in. Just then, Okuyasu suddenly grabs Josuke and uses his ability to pull Koichi out of the room. This is his way of repaying Josuke for saving his life. Okuyasu promises that this is where he draws the line, and he won't interfere in the fight between Josuke and his brother. Koichi is finally saved successfully. Josuke suddenly notices movement in the Keicho, something that looks like Keicho's stand. At first, he thinks it's just a few small things, but it turns out to be a group of toy-sized soldiers. All those small holes from earlier were caused by their machine gun fire. These soldiers' weapons are tiny, but they're extremely lethal, and there are so many of them. Josuke fights back as hard as he can, but only takes down 3 of them. Keicho will never let them leave easily, so Josuke quickly shields Koichi and hides in a room. He originally planned to jump out the window to escape, but he never expected an Apache attack helicopter to be lying in wait outside. Koichi also sees a tank and quickly pulls Josuke out of harm's way. This proves that Koichi can now see stands. He's officially become a stand user. Keicho appears again and orders his stand to stop attacking. Clearly confident in Bad Company defensive capabilities, this highly disciplined, neatly arranged army perfectly matches his rule-abiding personality. He shows up because he wants to know what stand ability Koichi has gained. It could affect his plans. If Koichi's ability is the one he's been searching for, Koichi can live. But Keicho has no intention of sparing Josuke. However, Koichi has no idea how to use his stand at all, so Keicho tells Josuke to teach him directly. Keicho says plainly that Josuke's stand only has a 1-meter range. If Koichi's stand can make up for that flaw, maybe they'll have a slim chance of winning. This makes it clear that Keicho is desperately searching for a specific ability. Seeing that Koichi still doesn't understand, Keicho orders his stand to attack Koichi, forcing him to activate his ability. After a scream, Koichi's stand appears in the form of an egg. Keicho sees the egg starting to hatch and immediately orders his men to get ready to attack, since stands and their users usually share damage. damage. Josuk quickly pushes Koichi and the egg out of the way. Keicho also seizes this chance to try to take Josuk down first. He can study Koichi's stand ability later. Josuk decides to face the enemy head-on. Keicho makes a direct prediction. He'll hit Josuk's leg first, then his arm, and finally blow off that precious hairstyle of his along with his head. During their conversation, Koichi attempted to use his stand to knock out Keicho, but Keicho noticed and instead knocked Koichi unconscious. Keicho then orders Bad Company to launch a full-scale attack, and Crazy Diamond uses its fists to swat away the incoming hail of bullets. But Josuk accidentally stepped on a landmine. His foot was injured by the explosion, and as he falls to the ground, his arm is hit by a missile from the Apache. Everything unfolds exactly as Keicho predicted. Just as Bad Company is about to finish Josuk off, Josuk calmly says the fight is already over. The two missiles he destroyed earlier suddenly repair themselves and fly straight into Keicho's head, knocking him out cold on the spot. Good morning. Today, I'm back to explain the story that takes place in Morio Town. Let's quickly review the characters. First, we have the third JoJo, Jotaro Kujo, an invincible force. Whatever you do, don't touch his hat, unless you want to go looking for Dio. Next, the fourth JoJo, Josuk Higashikata, who has the most gentle stand. Be careful, don't mention his hairstyle, or you might end up looking like a monster, or worse. And finally, we have Koichi Hirose, who currently doesn't have a stand. Back to the anime. The first meeting between the third and fourth JoJos is here. Jotaro approaches Josuk, begins to recount Josuk's background. Josuk was born in 1983. At the age of 4, a high fever lasting 50 days occurred. Why did the high fever last so long? No need to say more. It's all about the honor of the Stardust Crusaders. Josuk's mother, Tomoko Higashikata, studied at a university in Tokyo and gave birth to Josuk at the age of 21. When Jotaro brings up Josuk's father, his expression gets a little complicated.
父親の名前はジョセフ・ジョースター。
When Joseph Joestar was 62 years old, he had an affair and fathered Josuk. From a generational perspective, Jotaro is Joseph's grandson, while Josuk is Joseph's son. So technically, Josuk is Jotaro's uncle. This is how strange the family lines work in JoJo. While they're chatting, the Joestar family's passive ability was triggered. 3 female high school students surround Josuk. Jotaro has matured quite a bit. At least they weren't kicked out. But then, by accident, Jotaro says Josuk's hairstyle is boring. Josuk gets mad and prepares to teach Jotaro a lesson. Why does this kid lose all sense of reason when it comes to hairstyles? Who taught him this? Just as Josuk is about to throw a punch, Jotaro quickly summons his stand and lands a punch on Josuk. Josuk was completely stunned by that punch. Jotaro patiently explains the concept of stands, but Josuk is too angry to listen. He immediately releases his stand Crazy Diamond. The power of the Crazy Diamond is so great that Platinum Star also revealed a flaw. As Crazy Diamond is about to punch Jotaro in the face, Jotaro uses his time stop ability. Everyone, take note. Jotaro was forced to use time stop by a 16-year-old high schooler. That's a little embarrassing. But what's even more embarrassing is that Jotaro's head got hit. Jotaro's anger. He punched Josuk in the face, while the high school girls continue making a racket nearby.
やかましい！俺は女が騒ぐとムカつくんだ！うせろ！
As for Koichi, he's completely frozen in shock. After all, he can't see stands. The conversation is over. The fight is over. Jotaro still has something important to say to Josuk. When Joseph found out about his illegitimate son, he used his stand to investigate the matter. Discovered a murderer who awakens a double. And that murderer is in the peaceful Morio town. Jotaro came here to protect Josuk and his family. At this point, Koichi suddenly remembers that he still has to attend the school opening ceremony. So they knew oneself am a high school student. So, Jotaro and Josuk quickly rush back to school. After Keicho fell into a coma, Josuk, who was already injured, decided not to look for the arrow just yet and instead decided to leave the area for the time being. Koichi, on the other hand, believed that if they missed this chance, more people might be hurt by the abilities triggered by the arrow. He bravely decided to go upstairs alone to check it out. Josuk admired his courage and followed him up. The arrow was hanging in the attic room, but it was obvious that there was an unknown creature locked inside the room. Just as Koichi was about to enter, a monstrous hand grabbed him. Josuk swiftly severed the hand. Then, a monster rushed out of the room, and its severed hand surprisingly grew back. The monster picked up its severed hand and bit into it. At this point, Keicho stepped forward and explained that the monster was actually their father. The truth of the matter was this: 11 years ago, in 1988, Keicho was 7 years old, and Okuyasu was 4. At that time, their father, after the economic collapse, lost his company and his wife passed away. He became deeply in debt and would often beat the children for no reason. But one day, he suddenly struck it rich. After investigating, Keicho discovered that their father had sold his soul to Dio. At the time, Dio was searching for hidden stand users. After Dio was defeated, the father's body began to undergo strange mutations as his fangs went out of control. After a year of transformation, the father became a monster and no longer recognized even his own children. Keicho spent 10 years investigating the truth and eventually uncovered everything. He learned about Granny Enya and obtained the arrow, and he also realized that his father couldn't be restored and couldn't die easily either. So, he had been using the arrow to trigger new stand users, hoping to finally end his father, a being who couldn't be killed no matter what. Now, their father only aimlessly clawed at an empty box. When the box was taken away, he would cry helplessly for days. Keicho felt extremely extremely frustrated. His emotions were conflicted. He wished that his father could just die normally. At that moment, Joseph noticed some fragments in the box. He used his ability to restore the contents of the box. It turned out that it was actually a family photo from Nijimura. It turns out that what the father did with all his might to protect was his family. If a Yandere girl wanted to date you, would you say yes? Today, Koichi was actually on a date with a beautiful girl. Meanwhile, Jasuke and Okuyasu were walking home when they were shocked to see Koichi on a date. Okuyasu, surprised, said, "That girl's name is Yukako. She's in our class." Then, out of nowhere, Yukako confessed her feelings to Koichi. This left Okuyasu completely stunned. Okuyasu said through his tears, "Why is Koichi getting confessed to by a goddess?" They quietly watched from the sidelines, but things started to feel more and more off. Yukako then seriously asked Koichi, "Do you like me?" Koichi hesitated, unsure how to answer. Suddenly, Yukako slammed her hand on the table, her face full of anger, and demanded, "Why don't you like me? Am I not pretty enough? Or am I just not good enough?" Koichi was completely stunned, realizing that this girl was a Yandere. At that moment, Yukako calmed down and realized she had overreacted, so she quickly left. Okuyasu, who had witnessed the entire scene, suddenly felt that Koichi wasn't as lucky as he seemed. But Jasuke noticed something strange. There were a lot of hairs floating in Koichi's soda. From what he knew, stand users seem to have this strange attraction to each other. No matter how much you try to hide, you'll always be found. This was also why Spicy Red Pepper was so desperate to get rid of the invincible Jotaro. Jasuke quickly realized that the attraction between stand users wasn't just a joke. The next day, Koichi was doing his usual duties when Yukako hadn't given up on him. She had spent the entire night thinking about what happened yesterday and couldn't sleep because she felt guilty. So, she apologized to Koichi. Koichi said it wasn't a big deal, and Yukako was thrilled. She even spent the night knitting him a sweater that fit perfectly and prepared a protective charm, along with a bento to share with him. While Koichi found it heartwarming, he also felt a bit frightened. Just as he was wondering how to reject her, the class president suddenly asked him to take out the trash, giving him a chance to escape. But Yukako, still silent, let her hair float in the air. In the sunlight, it looked terrifying, almost like cars. Then, she went downstairs to warn the class president not to interfere with Koichi. However, the class president wasn't taking her seriously, which angered Yukako. She immediately injected her hair into the class president's head, and set her hair on fire, blindfolded her, locking her tongue so she couldn't scream for help. Luckily, Okuyasu arrived just in time, and though his methods were rough, he managed to save the class president. Jasuke confirmed that Yukako was the stand user controlling her hair. Recently, Koichi had been bothered by Yukako's behavior, which caused his English grades to drop dramatically. He wanted to just reject Yukako's confession outright, but Jasuke advised him, doing that will just make things worse. Jasuke suggested that the best strategy was to make Yukako think Koichi was an unreliable bad guy, but Koichi didn't have any bad habits. So, Jasuke and Okuyasu deliberately started spreading rumors in front of Yukako, saying, Koichi steals things, never repays money, cheats on tests, and his grades are terrible. But they underestimated Yukako's Yandere tendencies. One night, while Koichi was asleep, Yukako broke into his house and kidnapped him. If you were taken to a beachside villa and told to live with a beautiful woman who only loves you, would you agree? But this woman is an extreme Yandere. If you get even one question wrong, she'll make you eat a dictionary and strap you to an electric chair. One night, Yukako kidnaps Koichi. She does this only because Koichi scored a 16 on his English test. She believes Koichi needs her help to become perfect. The next morning, Koichi wakes up in a room with the phone line cut. Yukako enters. She's carrying a full breakfast. Yukako said to Koichi, a few months ago, Yukako was struck by the arrow and awakened her stand power. She has no idea there are other stand users out there, and she doesn't know that Koichi is one of them. Koichi plays along for now, waiting for a chance to escape, but then Yukako suddenly pulls out his test paper and tells him to answer questions while eating. Get the answer right, you get real food. Answer wrong, you'll have to eat whatever's in her punishment box. Koichi guesses the first question right. If he had gotten it wrong, he would have had to eat an eraser and soap. Yukako's eyes make it clear. She would have forced him to swallow them without hesitation. For the second question, Koichi tries to read Yukako's expression before answering. That sets her off completely. She hates it when people try to be clever, so she makes him eat asparagus wrapped in dictionary pages and drink milk made from vocabulary cards. Koichi was thinking about running away, but Yukako had already implanted her hair in his head. The second he tried to escape, Yukako would know. To make matters worse, this is the private villa of a company president. No one will come here until summer. After breakfast, Yukako starts preparing ingredients for lunch. She looks at Koichi and says, as long as I'm here, I'll make you the perfect man, and once you're perfect, you'll never want to leave me again. Meanwhile, Jasuke and Okuyasu have realized that Koichi is missing. His family is debating whether to call the police. Jasuke is growing more anxious by the minute. Koichi's stand has a range of only 50 meters. There's no way to track him on a map. At that moment, Koichi wet his pants because he couldn't solve the problem on the door. The humiliation almost breaks him. He begs Yukako to let someone like him go, but Yukako sees something else in his eyes. A pure, almost desperate kind of dependence, and that's exactly what she loves. She even prepared an electric chair, planning to use it during dinner. Now, Yukako is leaving to buy olive oil, and Koichi finally sees his one chance to escape. The villa is far from town. Anyone who needs to buy supplies has to call call ahead, since the phone line is cut. There must be a public phone nearby. Koichi releases his stand, and, sure enough, finds a phone booth 48 meters away. But the booth requires coins to use. If he calls the police, Yukako will definitely kill them. Yukako quickly catches on to what Koichi is thinking, and warns him she'll break the 1 and 0 buttons on every nearby phone booth, so he can't call for help. Yukako left confidently. After learning that his father's true intention was to protect the family, Keicho loosened the chains. At this moment, Okuyasu also arrived upstairs and saw their father, transformed into a monster. For the past 10 years, their father had been guarding the family from within the box. Okuyasu couldn't hold back his tears. At this point, Jasuke asked Keicho to hand over the bow and arrow, offering to find someone to help treat their father. Seeing that Keicho was hesitating, Okuyasu joined in to persuade him. Even if their father's body couldn't be healed, perhaps his mind and memories could still be restored. Keicho believed it was too late to turn back now. He distanced himself from his brother, and firmly stated that he was the one who had killed everyone. Just then, Jasuke noticed something outside the skylight. A stand-in, charged with electricity, suddenly emerged from an outlet and attacked Okuyasu. Keicho pushed his younger brother out of the way. He himself was punched through. This body double is Chili Pepper, someone Keicho had once shot. As Chili Pepper's psychic power grew stronger, he became more powerful. He dragged both the bow and Keicho into the outlet. Even at the very last moment, Keicho was still concerned about his brother. He told Okuyasu not to touch him, or he would get pulled into the mess as well. Everyone rushed to the rooftop, where they found Keicho's body, burned and charred on the power pole. Even Okuyasu, though slow-witted, could understand that his brother had sacrificed himself to save him in his final moments. Unfortunately, he had no idea how many people his brother had turned into stand-ins. Afterward, Keicho was buried in the Guajian cemetery on the west side of Morio town. Okuyasu decided to stay there with his father for the time being. Since it was close to Jasuke's house, they often went to school together. Meanwhile, Jotaro received a call from Chili Pepper. He warned Jotaro to leave Morio town, saying he didn't want to cause any more trouble as long as it didn't bother him. After saying that, he blew up the phone. It seems that Jotaro will have to stay in Morio town for a while longer. She'll kill the boy on the spot if he shows even the tiniest hint of not liking her. This woman's name is Yukako, an insanely obsessive and deranged yandere. She's trapped Koichi, the boy she's head over heels for, in this beachside villa against his will. None of the communication gadgets inside work, dozens of meters away. The only way to call for help is to head to a phone booth when Yukako stepped out to make a call. Koichi panics and shoves every piece of furniture in the villa against the door to block it tight. He does this to keep Yukako from bursting in and hurting him out of nowhere. When Yukako gets back from her call, only to find the door blocked by furniture, she fights to hold back her blazing anger, and pours out her love for Koichi through the door. Then she grabs the electrified doorknob. Yukako snaps at Koichi furiously, but Koichi can't take her torment anymore. He refuses to open the door, no matter what. Yukako refused to tolerate Koichi going against her. She even unleashed her hair to hurl the furniture out of the way with brute force. But when she swings the door open, she's hit with a shocking sight. Koichi even sliced off his own hair. This was his way of declaring he'd never bow down, no matter what. He stands his ground with unshakable eyes, convinced Yukako doesn't stand a chance against him. Yukako was absolutely enraged. Her hair began to grow wildly, swarming densely from all directions to surround Koichi in an instant. She glares at Koichi with pure venom, forcing him to answer. Does he love her or not? She even threatens to off him right then and there if he dares to say he doesn't. Koichi, who's long since had enough of this chaos, stares back at her with eerie calm. He speaks slowly and clearly. Word for word, he's never liked her, not even once. As soon as Koichi finishes speaking, Yukako's hair tightens abruptly, wrapping around him like a vice in an instant. Just as Yukako thinks she's got this in the bag, she's suddenly blown backward by a massive force, crashing hard onto the floor. Turns out, Koichi's stand power lets onomatopoeia written on objects come to life. Yukako got blown away because Koichi had already written an explosion onomatopoeia on his clothes beforehand. Yukako plummeted to the edge of the cliff, her hair turning as white as a bedsheet. Even though Koichi doesn't like her, he still worries about her safety. He immediately sends his stand over to check if Yukako is still alive. When the stand detects Yukako's heartbeat, Koichi lets out a sigh of relief, but then she lashes out suddenly, grabbing Koichi's stand. Koichi struggled to unleash his stand and fight back, but Yukako reacts faster. She swats away all his attacks with a single wave of her hand. The stand's tail was struck down onto the rocks below the cliff. Yukako fixed the man who'd shattered her looks with a murderous glare. A searing hatred surges within her. She even wants to castrate him with her own hands to get revenge. At that split second, the cliff lets out a sharp cracking sound. Koichi shouts at Yukako in agony when his stand was checking her heartbeat earlier. It had already heard cracks from inside the cliff. This place is about to collapse, but Yukako, blinded by hatred, refuses to listen to a word Koichi says before she can make another move. The rock under her feet suddenly crumbles. Yukako screams as she plummets off the cliff. Lucky for her, Koichi had anticipated this. He used his stand power beforehand to turn the rocks below the cliff as bouncy as springs. Yukako, who'd fallen, bounces back up from the elastic rocks and lands on the shore. Back on the shore, Yukako stares at Koichi. A million emotions flood her heart. Just moments ago, she'd been filled with bloodlust, wanting to kill him. She never expected that in such a desperate situation, Koichi would have planned ahead to save her. After this incident, her love for Koichi only grows stronger. She watches Koichi's retreating figure and thinks to herself, even if Koichi never gives her the time of day for the rest of his life, she'll hold on to this love forever. When Marge opens the washing machine, a wave of unbearable stench hits her in the face. Their washer is completely dead, so she's forced to use their last bit of special income, the final stash of money hidden inside Bender's body. She sends Homer to the store to buy a new washing machine, but to Marge's shock, Homer comes home carrying a honeycomb grill. He proudly tells the family that this thing can sear beautiful honeycomb marks onto meat. Marge is furious. She scolded Homer for bringing back a useless grill instead of buying them a washing machine they desperately needed. But it doesn't take long for Homer to completely change her mind. After endless convincing, Marge finally takes a bite of the freshly grilled meat, and that one bite is all it takes for her to fall in love with the grill. The family eats from morning till night, and the smell of barbecue fills all of Springfield. Residents follow the aroma and flock over to buy Homer's grilled meat. The grill instantly becomes the hottest item in town. Seeing the endless line of customers, Marge finally relaxes. She tells Homer that buying the grill was actually the right move. Soon, Homer's barbecue attracts the attention of the local TV station. They send famous food critic Scotty Boone to pay Homer a visit and challenge him to a cook-off. Homer, thrilled by the idea, accepts the challenge on the spot. But the very next morning, while Homer is prepping his spices, he realizes the grill is gone. Losing the grill breaks him instantly. He completely loses the will to live. He collapses on the floor, letting Bart play on top of him like a jungle gym. Marge keeps trying to encourage him, hoping he'll find the strength to face the challenge again. But Homer remained deeply mired in despair, and his emotions even affected Bart and Lisa. Luckily, Marge refuses to get pulled into the emotional spiral. She takes the depressed family to the competition and decides to fight for the win using her own cooking skills. But the moment Marge serves her dish, the judges take one bite and spit it out immediately. Meanwhile, the aroma from Scotty Boone's barbecue has the judges smiling before they even taste it. Then Bart suddenly notices something. The honeycomb grill marks on Scotty Boone's meat look exactly like the ones from their family grill. He calls him out on the spot for stealing Homer's grill. After comparing the marks, the judges confirm the truth. Scotty Boone is disqualified. And so, the Simpsons won the championship. Homer also found his grill, Zero, and he excitedly hugged it, never wanting to be separated from it again. After taking care of Angelo, Jotaro immediately headed back to the hotel. He contacted the Speedwagon Foundation right away to report the latest developments. Jotaro specifically asked for the photos the Speedwagon Foundation had taken in Egypt 10 years earlier. In the photo, Anya the hag was clearly holding a bow and arrow. This meant the danger in Morio was far greater than just Angelo alone. After investigating the town's history thoroughly, Jotaro went straight to Josuke Higashikata's house. As soon as Tomoko Higashikata saw him, she mistakenly thought he was her husband Joseph. It was obvious her love for Joseph had never faded. Jotaro briefly explained he was Joseph's grandson. Tomoko stared at his face, lost in thought. Since Josuke hadn't come home yet, Jotaro planned to leave first. Before leaving, he comforted Tomoko, telling her to accept her loss and move on. He also told her that if Joseph were there, he would do everything in his power to protect her. But Joseph was getting on in years, making long trips really inconvenient for him. Jotaro promised he would guard Tomoko's safety in his grandfather's place. Based on the available information, that bow and arrow possessed the terrifying power to grant stand abilities to others. Someone was secretly creating a large number of stand users in Morio. They absolutely couldn't let someone more evil than Dio gain control of such immense power. They had to find and destroy this dangerous bow and arrow as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Koichi Hirose was also deeply worried about the town's safety. After checking the town's white paper, he was shocked to discover that 81 people had gone missing under mysterious circumstances. 45 of them were young girls, a number 8 times higher than that of similar-sized towns. At the same time, he felt profound sorrow over the passing of Josuke's grandfather. After school, Josuke took the initiative to invite Koichi to walk home together. Koichi was sincerely relieved to see Josuke pulling himself together. When the two passed Angelo Rock, they even stopped to say hello. On their way, they passed an abandoned house with a no trespassing sign posted on it. Koichi keenly noticed that, inside this house, which had been closed up for 3 or 4 years, a dark figure had appeared by the window just a moment earlier. But Josuke said their house was not far away, and he had never heard of any new residents moving in here. The police also patrolled the area regularly to keep homeless people away. However, curiosity got the better of Koichi, and he couldn't help but peek into the house. In the next second, a boy named Okuyasu Nijimura suddenly kicked the door open, grabbing Koichi by the throat. Okuyasu shouted angrily that his father had bought this house, warning Koichi not to break in without permission. Josuke stepped forward immediately to intervene, demanding that Okuyasu let Koichi go. Unexpectedly, an arrow suddenly shot down from the roof, piercing straight through Koichi's throat. The one who attacked was Okuyasu's older brother, Keicho Nijimura, the very person secretly creating stand users in the town. He had witnessed Josuke defeat Angelo, and he believed Josuke would become an obstacle to his plans. Shooting Koichi was a test to see if he could awaken his stand ability. From the current situation, it was clear Koichi hadn't succeeded. Okuyasu immediately summoned his stand, Bombard Space, to stop Josuke from rescuing Koichi. Josuke also quickly unleashed Crazy Diamond to fight back, but the bombing space with a speed rating of B was no match for Crazy Diamond's speed rating of A, and was severely injured with a single punch. Seeing his younger brother defeated, Shapesign flew into a rage and shouted at him. His stunt double is clearly very powerful, but he used it like a fool. He ordered Okuyasu to master his stand properly and kill Josuke once and for all. Taking advantage of the argument between the two, Josuke walked towards Koichi. He punched Okuyasu away and immediately checked Koichi's injuries. Enraged, Itai activated the core capability of bombarding space, eliminating space. Josuk instantly sensed the fatal danger. He gripped the right hand of bombing space tightly with both hands. After being punched by Okuyasu, Josuk quickly retreated. When Josuk came to his senses, he noticed that a word was missing from the door that the right hand had slashed across in the bomb space. Josuk immediately figured out that the opponent's stand ability was erasing space. Okuyasu readily admitted this and added more details. He told Josuk that the right hand of bombardment space could completely eliminate anything it touched. The cut surfaces of the erased objects would automatically merge back together, restoring their original form. As for where the erased parts went, Okuyasu himself had no idea. This ability could even cut through spatial distance, forcing the target to appear right in front of him. With this bizarre ability, Okuyasu landed several punches on Josuk in a row, but Josuk soon found a way to counter it. When he was pulled by the spatial suction again, 3 potted plants next to him were sucked in as well. Okuyasu didn't have time to react and was hit repeatedly by the 3 potted plants, temporarily passing out. To be safe, Josuk wanted to pinch Okuyasu to keep him unconscious longer, but just as he was about to act, he saw Koichi being dragged deeper into the house, so Josuk immediately let Okuyasu go and chased after them without hesitation. Poor Homer, nothing creeps him out more than vampires. One night during The Simpsons TV time, the news cut in with a terrifying report. A poor resident had been killed, and his blood was completely drained. The police blamed the attack on some unknown creature to prevent things from getting worse. They even burned every vampire-related artifact in the museum. The more Lisa watched, the more terrified she became. She warned everyone in the house to watch out for a vampire attack, but Homer thought the whole thing was ridiculous. He didn't believe vampires would ever show up in their town. Moreover, he was going to take his whole family to Mr. Burns' country castle for a dinner party. Mr. Burns warmly welcomed the Simpsons. Lisa thought Burns' behavior was strange, while Homer thought Mr. Burns' hairstyle was odd. Out of curiosity, Batra triggered a mechanism inside the castle. The next second, Bart was standing in front of the vampire. When Burns brought Bart back to the table, Lisa immediately realized he had turned into a vampire. That night, Bart, now a vampire, tried to attack Lisa, but Homer arrived in time and stopped him. Even though Homer stopped the danger, he had zero intention of risking his life to save Bart, so Marge used the simplest, most brutal logic to convince him. If Bart learns to suck blood today, he'll probably learn to smoke tomorrow. So Homer needs to take Burns out now. Forced by Marge's parenting wisdom, Homer dragged himself deep into the castle. He found Burns lying in a coffin and drove a wooden stake straight through his heart, right before crumbling to ash. Burns still managed to curse Homer and got him fired on the spot, and that is the real reason Homer is absolutely terrified of vampires. For Bart, who was not yet born, nothing affected him more than alcohol. The Simpsons were driving to a party when Homer threatened Bart, saying that if Bart touched his nose again, he would crash the car into the big tree on the side of the road. Fortunately, Maggie stopped their antics in time, and the car arrived at the party unharmed. But Bart encountered someone here who looked exactly like him. Before they could react, an adult version of Bart suddenly appeared and introduced his wife to them, a woman who looked like a female version of Milhouse. The other boy tells Bart his name is Simon. Simon suggests they switch places so both of them can experience a completely different life. Bart hesitates until he hears Homer outside yelling about giving him a beating. He immediately agrees to the swap. They quickly change clothes and fill each other in on their families. Moments later, Bart is riding in Simon's luxury sedan, enjoying the service of a personal chauffeur while Simon is already getting a taste of Homer's parenting style. The car pulls into a ridiculously rich palace, where a line of servants greets Bart in perfect formation. Inside the mansion, there's a pool big enough for 2 pirate ships, a volcano that spits candy corn, a ceiling taken straight from Saddam's palace, a giant race car bed, and a massive library Bart has zero interest in. His new life feels like pure fantasy, but the good times don't last. Simon's brother and sister trick him into the family crib and lock him inside. Fortunately, Mr. Burns appeared and saved him because Bart, disguised as Simon, was even richer than Mr. Burns, who always liked to curry favor with those who were richer than him. Burns warns him to watch out for Simon's siblings, because they might try something drastic for the inheritance. Bart tries to pack up and escape, but before he can leave, the siblings drag him onto a so-called family speed trip. At the same time, Lisa realizes that Simon is not the real Bart. She exposes him on the spot. Simon immediately tells Homer that Bart has been taken to a ski resort and someone plans to murder him there. Homer completely misinterprets the situation, thinking Simon is future Bart who traveled back in time to warn him. So he drove his family to the ski resort. At the top of the mountain, Simon's sister pushed Bart off the slope without hesitation. Thankfully, Lisa spots Bart sliding down the mountain. To save his son, Homer jumps off the ridge, rolling into a giant snowball, chasing Bart all the way down, and finally knocking him straight beside the lodge. Both of them escape unharmed. That night, Bart finally returns to his family's arms. Nothing could break Flanders more than the collapse of his faith. One day, the sky suddenly changed color, and a massive hurricane tore through all of Springfield, ripping everything on the streets right into the air. With nowhere else to hide, the Simpsons had no choice but to take shelter in their basement. Thankfully, the storm came fast and left just as quickly. When the family stepped outside, they were shocked to see their home completely untouched. But their neighbor Ned Flanders wasn't so lucky. His entire house had been shredded into a pile of broken lumber. At least the Flanders family survived. Though the storm had blown their clothes to rags, homeless, they moved into a temporary shelter. Late at night, unable to sleep, Ned quietly slipped out of the shelter and went to the church for comfort, as the disaster he witnessed had shaken his faith. When Ned's friends heard what happened, they decided to rebuild his home. The moment Ned saw the new house, he was overwhelmed, almost unable to believe his eyes. Homer proudly led him inside to take a tour of their masterpiece. The toilet was built right next to the fridge. The wall cracks open completely once the clown poster is torn off. The rooms looked like they were pieced together from leftover scraps, and the bedroom door wasn't even as wide as Ned's face. And at the end of the tour, Homer tapped lightly on the doorframe, and the whole house collapsed like a stack of paper. In that instant, Ned's faith shattered completely. He exploded, yelling at everyone in sight, leaving the entire crowd frozen in fear. In the end, the group drove him straight to the psychiatric hospital. Even though Ned insisted he was perfectly fine, the staff carried him off anyway. When a nurse came by to check on him, he was calmly sitting on the bed flipping through a magazine, as if the meltdown moments ago had never happened. No one at the racetrack could beat Bart and his racehorse. That day, Homer wore a deep-fried shirt and took his family to the state fair, forced to leap off a high platform into a pool. The whole stunt looked more like an accident than a performance. Suddenly, Springfield police arrived, and he tried to ask who owned the horse. However, as soon as the horse's owner saw the police, he immediately drove away. By regulation, any horse abandoned by its owner would be sent straight to the slaughterhouse unless someone adopted it on the spot. Bart stepped forward without the slightest hesitation, so Homer put the horse on the roof of the car and took it back to the Simpsons house. They named it Buddy. Bart and Lisa fell in love with it instantly, but Marge immediately warned Homer that keeping a horse cost a fortune, at least $500 a week. Homer, of course, complained that even the mop Marge bought at the fair needed food. Nevertheless, he still came up with a plan. He decided to turn Buddy into a money-making racehorse. Under Homer's special training, Buddy's mane became multicolored, and he even wore a jacket that accentuated his muscles. Its temper also became irritable, as if it were ready to charge at anything in its way at any moment. Not long after, but stepped onto the track for the first time, once the rating from above. Buddy pulled ahead and easily took first place. Homer was so thrilled he even ran off to mess with the other jockeys, but Homer returned to the ground, thinking it was all an illusion, until the goblins reappeared and clearly expressed their threat. He tried to convince Bart to quit the race that night, but Bart told him that if Buddy won just one more time, the horse could retire for good and live as a stud. It would never have to risk its life on the track again. Hearing that, Homer had no choice but to let Bart race. The Triple Crown race finally arrived. The competitors were ready, whipping Bart and Buddy from both sides to force them off the track. Buddy, Lisa, and Maggie blasted them with water guns, knocking them over. Homer seized the chance and stuffed them all into a garbage bag. In the end, no one enjoys tormenting Homer more than Bart does. In the psychologist's office, Maggie shares her worries with the doctor. After listening, the doctor immediately gives the Simpson family a special solution. Let Bart play the drums and burn off all that chaotic energy. The first time Bart touches the drums, he shows off an absurd level of talent. Maggie was relieved. At least her child had finally found a hobby that wouldn't cause trouble. Soon, Bart gets completely obsessed. He drums from upstairs to downstairs, from inside the house to the street, and even at school. He can't stop. Even Principal Skinner couldn't stop Bart from playing the drums, but Maggie and Homer didn't like it. They were driven to the brink of collapse by the constant noise. Bart drums even in his sleep. Fortunately, Lisa appeared just in time, and at Maggie's request, she took Bart to the jazz club. On stage, Bart and Lisa perform a jazz piece together. Their chemistry blows the audience away. After the show, as they're about to enjoy some snacks, two of famous jazz musicians invites Bart to collaborate on a performance. Lisa is stunned. This should have been her specialty, but Bart stole all the limelight. Bart's shows get hotter and hotter. He even lands on the cover of Jazz magazine. Lisa can't handle it and complains to Maggie that Bart has taken everything from her. To cheer Lisa up, Maggie decides to take her to an animal shelter to pick a pet. Lisa is soon healed by a cute little dog, and she plans to take it home. But the elderly dog makes her feel guilty. That night, she dreamt that the old dog asked her, "Why didn't you choose me? I'll be euthanized." This troubled Lisa's conscience. Lisa, having no other choice, chose to take in the old dog. However, the shelter staff took advantage of her kindness. So when she left the shelter, she was accompanied by 2 dogs and a small bird. Then, even stranger things began to happen. Lisa started taking in stray animals on her way home. A raccoon caught in a trap, a guide dog trying to escape its owner, and a large group of animals from a failed circus. Lisa took them all home and let them live in the attic. The next day, the police arrived to warn her, if no one adopts these animals, they'll be sent to a slaughterhouse. Outside the window, Lisa was busy feeding the stray animals. Maggie turned to Bart and said she hoped he could help his sister. This time, Bart really thinks long and hard. Finally, he makes a decision. On the jazz stage, Bart publicly announces all the money he's earned recently will go into building an animal sanctuary, specifically for the stray animals Lisa rescued. Lisa never expected Bart to do something like this. She went up to Bart and hugged him on the spot. This time, it's Bart who saves Lisa. Nothing gets Homer more hyped than stolen food. Homer noticed that the Flanders eggs had orange yolks, while his own eggs had yellow yolks. This made Homer think the Flanders eggs tasted better, so he came up with a brilliant idea to teach Bart an essential life skill: stealing eggs from the neighbor. The moment the two of them taste Flanders eggs for the first time, they're completely blown away. This tastes 100 times better than their own eggs. The following night, Homer and Bart return to the henhouse to steal eggs. but Flanders was already lying in wait to keep them from stealing again. He even hangs up a big sign that reads, "Please do not steal." So Homer decided to raise chickens himself. Lisa loved the new hens and offered to help select the fresh eggs. The whole family starts enjoying the home-raised eggs. But Homo always felt that the egg flavor was missing something. There's no thrill, no kick, no addictive flavor. Suddenly, it dawned on him. Only stolen eggs had that magical taste he couldn't forget. The very moment he reached this scientific conclusion, he brought Bart to the Flanders house. He even insisted that Flanders chase after them, so that he could feel like he was stealing. Watching this chaos unfold, Maggie quietly offers her solution. Maybe they should just eat the chickens Homer raised. But Lisa told her that she had found a new home for the chickens, a research institution willing to care for animals. At the research center, Homer whispers to the staff, "Please don't let this little girl find out you're gonna eat the chickens." The researchers calmly explain that the chickens won't be eaten. They're being sent to Mars. Upon hearing this, Lisa became very interested. As soon as she gets home, she tells Maggie and Homer that she wants to join the mission to Mars. Maggie refuses immediately. There's no way she's letting her daughter travel to another planet. Mother and daughter lock eyes, neither willing to back down. Just as the tension peaks, Homer pulls Maggie aside. He gently tells her, "If you want to stop a woman from doing something, you don't forbid her, you pretend to support her." Those words instantly remind Maggie of her own mother. You cannot marry Homer Simpson. This twisted man was brutally beating a child when, suddenly, he noticed that the kid's socks were on inside out. His intense obsessive-compulsive disorder made him unable to resist stepping forward to fix Koichi's socks properly, even though it dragged on for ages. But the sense of relief he felt afterward was immense, because even if he had killed the kid right there, his OCD would have kept him awake all night. Not long ago, under Koichi's stand ability, Yoshikage Kara's sheer heart attack backfired, with the effect reverberating on his left hand. Not only had he publicly stripped off a waitress's uniform, a passing gang of thugs even tied his shoelaces together on purpose and humiliated him. What could he do? As an adult, of course, he had to teach these punks a lesson, so he dropped his wallet on purpose. He let the money inside show to lure them into the trap. The greedy punks immediately grabbed it, but the moment their fingers touched the money, disaster struck. Their hands exploded in an instant. This was Killer Queen's first bomb. After dealing with the punks, he couldn't help but mutter in frustration, "Why is it so hard to live a peaceful life?" But now was not the time for complaints. His top priority was to retrieve his second bomb. Meanwhile, Koichi noticed cracks forming on the bomb car, signaling that its stand user had been injured. Though Echo's power had grown significantly, its range had been greatly reduced. This meant Koichi couldn't move more than 5 meters away from the second bomb. Otherwise, the gravity effect on the enemy would disappear. On the flip side, the closer he was to the bomb car, the heavier the gravity echoes could apply. Fearing the bomb's blast, Koichi figured this distance was the safest. He just needed to hold on a little longer. But what he didn't anticipate was Yoshikage Kara, dragging his blood-soaked arm, suddenly appearing right in front of him. Koichi had never seen the stand user of the bomb car, so he didn't recognize the man in front of him as the infamous serial killer. Kara immediately began monologuing, speaking in a way that made no sense to Koichi. Seeing the strange actions and the blood oozing from his arm, Koichi quickly realized the truth. This man was the twisted serial killer terrorizing Morio Town. Kara had calculated that Koichi's teammates wouldn't arrive for at least 5 more minutes, so he needed to finish Koichi off in the next 2.5 minutes. To protect Morio Town, Koichi had no choice but to defeat this psychopath.
Killer Queen!
Koichi was sent flying 5 meters back, holding his chest in pain. He stared in shock and screamed, "How could one person have 2 stands? That's against the rules." Kira, grinning with mockery, explained, his bomb car was a homing bomb launched from Killer Queen's left hand, so any effects from the bomb car would only rebound to his left hand. But now there was no time to think about it, since it was way beyond the stand's reach. The second bomb's gravitational pull disappeared in the blink of an eye. Now Koichi a life or death decision. Echoes could only enhance gravity on one target at a time. So, who should he attack first? Kira, or the bomb car? Even if he made Kara heavier, the bomb car would still track him and explode. But if he targeted the bomb car first, Kara would immediately rush in for a deadly attack. Echoes urged him to make a decision fast. "Hurry, give the order." After a brief pause, Koichi, to avoid being killed by the bomb car's explosion, had no choice but to order Echoes to attack the bomb car. But he never expected Killer Queen's power to be this terrifying. In the blink of an eye, Echoes was pinned underfoot by Kara. Next, Kara began to torment Koichi, all because Koichi had embarrassed him in front of everyone and made him taste defeat for the first time in his life. With Echoes crushed under Killer Queen's foot, Koichi's body couldn't move. He was completely at Kara's mercy. Kara stomped on Koichi's hand, causing him to scream in agony. Then, he kicked his foot into Koichi's mouth, but that still didn't satisfy him. He grabbed Koichi by the head and slammed it repeatedly into the hard ground. After unleashing his twisted anger, Koichi suddenly mustered the strength to shout out, "Yoshikage Kara, your name is Yoshikage Kara, isn't it?" It turned out that while Kara was distracted, Koichi had stolen his wallet and uncovered his true identity. But even knowing his name, Kara didn't care, because he was about to end Koichi for good. Koichi kept taunting him, saying, "A nameless brat knows your name?" Koichi, struggling to stay conscious, told Kira, "I'll be waiting for you in the next world." Every insult pushed Kira over the edge, making him lose control. He unleashed a furious attack with his stand, landing a punch that pierced right through Koichi's body. For the first time, Kira felt the sting of defeat. It came from a mere brat, and he couldn't stand it. Even though Koichi was on the verge of death, his inside-out socks still made Kira, with his severe OCD, feel uneasy. He couldn't help himself. He had to fix that bad habit. Just as he crouched down to straighten Koichi's socks and was about to turn him into a bomb, an invincible man suddenly stood up.
コウイチ君、君は精神的にはその男に勝っていたぞ。
How on earth is this guy so powerful? When the game began, he didn't follow the usual path of selecting the beginner dungeon. Instead, he completely skipped the newbie dungeon and headed straight for the much more challenging second dungeon, though the two dungeons were only separated by a bridge. In order to cross, he would first have to defeat the boss guarding it. The system recommends a team of 3, with each member's level exceeding 10. But Jack, this absolute beginner, showed no fear. His reaction speed was several times faster than the average person. Without hesitation, he charged straight at the boss. He dodged the giant serpent's attacks with incredible agility. When the serpent's tail swung toward him again, Jack swiftly sidestepped and counterattacked. To his shock, however, his basic weapon broke mid-attack. Clearly, this boss had an insanely high defense, far stronger than any newbie would have expected. But Jack didn't rely on just one weapon. He pulled out a pair of red daggers, which he had picked up as drops from a previous monster kill. Even so, he was still like a glass cannon. One hit could kill him. As Jack prepared to regroup and strike again, the giant serpent suddenly lifted its tail and sprayed a deadly stream of venom. Jack was instantly poisoned. The venom wasn't lethal, but it caused damage every 10 seconds. This meant that even if the boss didn't attack him, Jack would still die in 5 minutes. To defeat the boss quickly, Jack had to land a series of critical hits. In other games, this would be difficult to achieve. But in this game, critical hits weren't random. They were triggered when striking a specific weak point identified by the system. Jack quickly developed a strategy. He focused all his attacks on one point. By doing so, he created an artificial weak point, which the system then recognized as a critical hit zone. He steadily chipped away at the boss's health, but the boss wasn't going to take it lying down. With a tail swipe, it sent Jack flying, then launched an aerial attack. Jack couldn't dodge the incoming attack, but this gave him a crazy idea. Its eyes. If he could strike the boss's eyes, he could deliver a fatal blow. Jack gripped his daggers and aimed for the boss's head. Using the momentum, he let go of his left-hand weapon, grabbed the boss's fur, and unleashed a powerful critical hit that finally defeated the boss. As the boss's final bit of health disappeared, Jack's level jumped to 14. Although the loot dropped by the boss was valuable, Jack had no time to check it. The poison was still eating away at him. He quickly allocated his agility points into endurance and agility, then sprinted toward the town in the second dungeon. A kind passerby pointed him toward the resurrection point, explaining that he needed to lie in a bed to register his spawn point. Without waiting for further details, Jack rented a room and jumped into bed just as his health bar reached 0, updating his respawn point. After resting, Jack walked out of the inn, only to have everyone stare at him with strange looks because of his unusual gear. He couldn't stand being treated like a freak anymore, so he decided to visit the shop and buy the cheapest armor available. Weapons must be his top priority. The previous weapon had helped him defeat the boss, but its level was simply too low. So, he spent a fortune at the blacksmith's and bought a pair of perfect daggers. These daggers had a special attribute. After landing a critical hit, the weapon's durability consumption would be halved for a short period of time. Though they didn't increase attack power, Jack felt this was a divine gift that perfectly suited his combat style. As Jack was about to leave, the blacksmith warned him, "With this armor, don't venture out at night. Monsters in the wild are incredibly dangerous." Despite the NPC's kind warning, Jack decided to head out into the wilderness anyway. Before long, he encountered a tricky enemy, a highly agile goblin, which could even summon reinforcements. But Jack didn't flinch. In fact, he saw this as a challenge to push himself further. He reveled in the thrill of battle, until a burst of purple light wiped out all the goblins in one strike. Just as Jack was stunned by the turn of events, a massive, gray wolf with an aura of purple killing intent appeared before him. Up until this point, Jack had only fought elite monsters, but when this wolf showed up, he finally realized just how terrifying this game truly was. This glacial mountain range is completely built from all flavors of ice cream. The branches of the tropical rainforest are actually covered with pork cutlet rice, fried shrimp rice, and all kinds of rice bowls. In this world where delicious food is everywhere, eating well and drinking well is humanity's highest pursuit. One day, top-tier gourmet hunter Toriko brings a giant dragon to the market to sell. This dragon is a level 4 dangerous monster that usually requires armored vehicles to barely handle, but Toriko took it down easily with just his bare hands. As a world-famous gourmet hunter, Toriko had barely appeared when TV reporters swarmed him. Before the reporters could even open their mouths to interview him, several men in black suddenly rushed over and dragged him away forcefully. These burly men in suits and sunglasses are exclusive agents of the gourmet organization IGO. They specially came to find Toriko, hoping to invite him to assist in a special mission. Although IGO has many outstanding gourmet hunters under its wing, this mission is impossible to complete without Toriko's unique skills. Legend has it that there's a magical fruit called the rainbow fruit, famous worldwide for its incredible and ultimate deliciousness. Its juice is extremely thick, just one drop in a swimming pool turns the entire pool into sweet and rich fruit juice. Toriko's mission is clear, to go pick this rare fruit. Hasn't the rainbow fruit been extinct for a long time? Komatsu exclaimed. That's correct. The agents nodded in response. But IGO has cultivated new rainbow fruit trees through high-tech means. This fruit tree is now growing in our nature reserve. The reason they specially invited Toriko is that a ferocious Dorikin gorilla has built a nest and settled near the rainbow fruit tree. IGO once sent an armored unit to drive it away, but a 40-ton tank was easily flipped over by this level 9 gorilla. Toriko, however, had previously successfully defeated a prehistoric giant crocodile that ruled an entire island, and that crocodile was only level 8. After hearing this information, Toriko showed no sign of fear on his face and agreed to the mission immediately. The female reporter who had been pushed aside earlier quietly followed Toriko along. Before long, the group arrived at the nature reserve by car. The reserve's walls soar into the clouds, even Bertolt's giant chainsaw can't hope to cut through them. As soon as they got out of the car, several deafening booms came from far away. These thunder-like sounds are exactly the Dorikin gorilla inside the walls pounding its chest fiercely. Toriko immediately ordered the staff to open the city gate. I'm going in to have some fun with it. But according to the reserve's regulations, no one is allowed to open the gate if there are any dangerous beasts within 5 kilometers of the walls. What a hassle, Toriko muttered softly. Since I can't open the gate, I'll find another way in. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his fist and smashed it hard against the wall. The solid, over 10-meter thick wall shattered and collapsed in an instant. Coco is undoubtedly the smartest player among the gourmet captives. Trapped in a desperate situation, Live's sweat poured down like rain as he nervously said, "Do you really think I'd steal Komatsu's recipe?" Coco replied bluntly, "I didn't plan on taking this step, but you've been showing greed and longing for Komatsu the entire time. And it's way too obvious." He knew that Komatsu's brilliant hangover cure would definitely be copied by Live. With no other options, Live reluctantly chose to forfeit, giving up the potato. Unexpectedly, Coco also chose to forfeit. 2 consecutive forfeits meant an automatic loss. Live could no longer give up. If he wanted to continue the game, he had to eat this deadly potato. This round was already a guaranteed loss for him. Live, who had won hundreds of games without ever losing, could not accept the reality before him. What kind of gamble? What kind of game? I'm done. If I can't win, then I'll just take it by force.
私が負けようがなんだろうが、どの道あんたたちは逃げられないのよ。
Coco remained calm and composed. Live trying to cheat was already expected by Coco. All the chatting and commentary up to this point were just ways to figure out his opponent's weaknesses. Coco had never been afraid of fighting. Live drew 2 massive kitchen knives, then spun them like fans. The tables and chairs around him were shredded instantly. Coco had been sitting at the table for hours, and now it was finally time to act. No matter what, Coco was determined to face this villain in a one-on-one fight. In that moment, Live hurled a knife at Coco. Coco dodged quickly. The blade slashed deep, leaving gouges on both the screen and the wall behind him. Live gave Coco no chance to catch her breath and attacked again. Coco immediately covered herself with poisonous venom, forming a deadly armor in an instant. Live laughed mockingly and charged at Coco recklessly. With just one move, Coco ended the fight. How can this guy be so weak without any hair? This village hides a deadly temptation. Own a house here, and you'll strike it rich overnight. It only costs $20,000 cheaper than an average house. Determined to uncover the truth, Teacher Rohan and the female editor traveled to this billionaire-packed village together. Rumor had it the manor's owner had off-the-charts standards for etiquette. As soon as the gate opened, Teacher Rohan and the female editor politely greeted the butler right away. Guided by the young butler, they walked through the exquisite courtyard and spacious foyer, fearing she might commit a faux pas. The female editor paid extra attention to where she placed her shoes. The two finally entered the manor's reception room. Before long, the young butler walked in carrying a pot of black tea. He bowed deeply, then turned and left the room. Teacher Rohan observed for a moment. He instantly realized the real etiquette test had already begun. The female editor was well versed in both tea and dining etiquette here, but just as she reached out to pick up her teacup, the butler suddenly slammed the door open and said, "Your etiquette doesn't meet the standards. The owner can't sell you the house, please leave." The female editor was completely stunned, her face filled with disbelief. What on earth did I do wrong? The butler started urging them to leave non-stop. They'd gone out of their way to travel all this distance. The female editor couldn't accept such a result at all. She looked at the short-statured butler and begged him repeatedly for another chance. The butler replied he'd go inside immediately to consult the owner. Teacher Rohan found the meeting utterly boring and just wanted to leave right away. But the female editor was determined to buy the house. She kept persuading Teacher Rohan to stay and wait for news. As the two argued fiercely, Teacher Rohan suddenly felt something wet in his pocket. He reached in and pulled it out. It turned out to be the little bird they'd found earlier. Just then, the female editor's phone suddenly rang. She answered it and learned a devastating truth. Her mother and boyfriend had just died in a car crash. At the same time, a highly venomous centipede crawled out of the birdcage. What the hell was going on with this string of bizarre events? Teacher Rohan Rohan immediately activated his ability Heaven's Door. He quickly read the information in front of him. Before long, he uncovered the crucial truth. This young butler wasn't a stand user at all, he was just an ordinary guide. The one truly controlling him was the mountain god of this area. Anyone who stepped foot on this land had to watch every word and action at all times. Even a single tiny breach of etiquette could make the mountain god take away the most important thing from you. And teacher Rohan's act of reading others' memories without permission was itself an extremely serious breach of etiquette. This guy completely turned his girlfriend's house into a gym. His girlfriend whipped up a fantastic dinner with great care, but as soon as she walked into the living room, she tripped over a dumbbell lying on the floor. It was one of the dumbbells her boyfriend had casually thrown around. He constantly leaves the place in chaos, but every time she sees his muscular body, her anger just melts away. She even jumps straight into his arms. Dinner's all set on the table. She calls him over to eat with her, but the guy doesn't seem to care. He says he doesn't eat fat or carbs. He only eats protein that's good for building muscle. If she doesn't follow his strict diet, he'll find it really annoying. Then he hands her a shopping list, ordering her to buy everything on it today. The woman is stunned. She had plans to go out with friends to sing karaoke tonight. She wanted him to come with her, but the guy says he needs to sleep because he has to run 10 kilometers at 4 a.m. tomorrow. She's completely shocked. It's barely 7 p.m. and he's already going to bed. And then the worst part, she finds out all the money in her wallet is gone. When she asks him about it, he admits he took the money to buy protein powder. She's so mad she can't even speak, but she doesn't know what to do about it. The guy, totally indifferent, just says, "I'm going to sleep now. You might as well leave." She snaps, "Lee, this is my house." Just as they're stuck in this standoff, the doorbell rings nonstop. It's the delivery guy.
おい、3回もインターホン鳴らしてんじゃねえ。以前お前に言ったら夜の配達はやめろ。
ような、
僕眠るんだ。
やめて。
タイムで俺を起こすような真似したらぶっ飛ばすからな。
Thankfully, the woman steps in to stop them, or things might have escalated. From that day on, the guy's workouts become more intense. He eats only protein. The house is filled to the brim with gym equipment. The wooden floor is covered in scratches from his jump rope. She tries to stop him, but ends up getting whacked by the rope herself. His entire world is slowly turning into a twisted gym space. The next evening, she comes home from work. She opens the door and freezes in shock. Her boyfriend has started indoor rock climbing. The entire wall and windows are covered with climbing stones. Even the air conditioner's switch is blocked by them. She can't hold back her complaints, but he responds. "The air conditioner takes up too much space. I'm having someone remove it tomorrow." And what pushed her over the edge was this. She found that every single yen in her bank account was gone. Every single yen of that 270,000 was completely gone. But her boyfriend just said, "I'll pay you back later." After all this constant torment, the woman can't take it anymore. She demands a breakup, but she can't help asking, "How did you even know the password to my bank card?"
誕生日だろ。元彼に。
Her emotions finally explode. She screams at him to get out, and to her surprise, he jumps straight out of the window. And this is the top floor. A psychopathic killer is tormenting Koichi. Yashikage Kira stomped hard on Koichi's hand. Right after that, he kicked his shoe straight into Koichi's mouth. He mocked Koichi, saying that boys shouldn't yell. Then, Kira Yashikage's face contorted in rage, grabbed Koichi's head. Fiercely slammed to the ground. Afterwards, he picked up a tissue. With a blank expression, he wiped the trivial bloodstains off Koichi's face. Yashikage Kira stood up and tossed his hair away in disgust. "What have you gotten out after investigating for so long?" Koichi suddenly called out his name. Yashikage Kira. Yashikage Kira froze for a split second, then frantically pushed Koichi away. His wallet was exposed. Yashikage Kira glared at Koichi with a ferocious look. He was questioned about when he stole it, but he quickly regained his composure and said that knowing his name was unimportant. "You'd be dead soon anyway." Koichi mocked back and said, saying even a kid like him could easily find out his name. "You're nothing special. You'll come to see me soon too." Yashikage Kira was completely enraged. Summoned Killer Queen and pierced Koichi's body. Just then, he discovered that Koichi's socks were on backwards. Koichi was thrown to the ground and lay motionless. Yashikage Kira originally intended to leave immediately, but still care a lot about this sock that's on inside out. He squatted down and helped Konyi straighten his socks, then slowly help him put his shoes back on. To get revenge on Koichi for wasting his time, he immediately summoned the Killer Queen, ready to turn Koichi into a bomb. Just as Killer Queen was about to touch Koichi, Jotaro walked over. Killer Queen instinctively spun around to attack, but Star Platinum caught the blow with ease. Yashikage Kira stared at Jotaro Kujo, bruised all over, his face caked in blood. Jotaro's eyes remained sharp and unyielding. Yashikage Kira's panic vanished in an instant. He casually raised his wrist to check the time. Jotaro pointed firmly at Kira Yashikage and said, was going to beat Yashikage Kira's face so bad he couldn't even tell the time. Yashikage Kira looked completely unbothered as he slowly walked toward the blood-soaked Jotaro. Jotaro was severely injured and supported his body with his blood-soaked hands. Kira Yashikage took the opportunity to mock Jotaro's stand for being too weak. He summoned Killer Queen right away, trying to kill Jotaro. In the blink of an eye, Star Platinum delivered a powerful punch to the Queen of Assassins' face. Before Yashikage Kira could wrap his head around what happened, Jotaro had already grabbed his hand. Jotaro stared at his watch. His style is absolutely terrible. But Jotaro quickly added that Yashikage Kira shouldn't worry. He said in a little while, Yashikage Kira's face would have even worse taste than his watch. After punching Yashikage Kara flying, Jotaro looked at the fallen Koichi. He praised Kangi as a reliable partner. As soon as he finished speaking, Jotaro couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed to the ground.